Conference will now be recorded.
Any doubts from previous topics? So in our last session, we have discussed about reports, which is classical report. We have seen how do we get data from a table of required fields only, as well as we also see when we have a requirement to get data from two more tables. What is the for all entries? How do we get the data? And how can we display? I request you to place a breakpoint and execute. If you have time, choose VBAK and VBAP for your need. And today what we are going to discuss is interactive report. So classical report is nothing but it has a input screen and it has a output screen. So user will enter input in the input screen. Based on that, you are going to display results in the output screen. So in the output screen, whatever they need business, everything you have to write inside your program. So that is called classical report. And interactive report is, so it is similar to classical, but one more functionality extra we have. So that is user enter inputs, and based on the input, we are going to display output screen. And again in the output screen, user going to interact again in the output screen. Based on the output screen interaction, one more output screen will be generated. So this is called interactive report. So based on interaction on the output, one another output screen to be generated, then we will go for the interactive reports. And how many outputs we can generate like this is 20 outputs we can generate. And one output is main output. So totally 21 screens we can generate using the interactive report. One main output screen and 20 interactive outputs. So total 21 screens we can generate using interactive report. And today we will see how these interactive reports work. And so we already know how can we generate a input screen, and based on the input, how can we generate output. And we wanted to see after output was generated, what are the normal customer needs and how the another output will be generated. So we'll take one requirement. Based on the requirement, we will work. So our requirement is get customer data based on customer ID and display sales upon user interaction in the output. So first what they are asking, so we need a input screen. Input screen has customer ID. So user will enter customer ID information in the input screen. And then you have to display output with the customer ID and customer name and customer country or region, whatever it is. So once you display information, let's say 1000 related. So 1000, a name Sanjay and country is India. So once this output is generated based on the user selection in the input screen, again user will interact on the output screen. So he'll click on this customer ID. So once he click on this customer ID, you need to generate one more output screen. So in this output screen, you have to display sales order ID and sales order created date information. So this is main output. And this is your interactive output. So this is your requirement. So we have to generate a input screen where user can enter customer IDs, and based on the customer ID, you have to display output with the customer details. So once customer details are displayed, so again we will click on the customer ID. So you need to display one more output where it has the sales order ID and sales order date. And again, if the user wanted to select the sales order ID, you need to display a transaction code called VA03. VA03 is a T code where sales we can display. So this is one more interactive output. So there are two interactions. In the first interaction, user will select customer ID, and in the second interaction, user will select sales order ID. So when user selects sales order ID, you have to display the sales order ID details in VA03 transaction code. So here, where you need to focus more is how these interactions are captured. Because you already know how we can generate input screen and how to display the output. This is well known. Only thing is, once output is generated, how the interaction, so which field and what field user was selected, that interaction, how do you know? That is what the main point in this interactive report. So here we were going to use event to generate this, to handle these interactions. So before going to this topic, first we will discuss what is this events. Because with the help of events only, we are going to handle these interactions. So it is needed to know before going to the interactive report, what are these events. So events are nothing but which is announcement to the program, what you are going to do before writing the logic. So I'll explain you with a simple code. Let's say you have written a program in SE38 to display some data object value into output. Let's say you have created a data object N1 and type I. After that, you have passed some value to this data object, and then you have used write statement, write followed by N1. So in this example, how normal ABAP programming language was read by the system, it's an interpreter. So interpreter is the one in the application layer, line by line, it will read, and if any line has issues, it will throw. So this interpreter, what it does is, so it will go to the first line and it will read the first line. Let's say interpreter, once it read the first line, then it understood, okay, ABAP written a code, so where he wanted to create a data object N1. So then one data object will be created by interpreter in application layer. And second, it will go to the second line. So interpreter is nothing but system. So system is reading your line, whatever you have written. Then system come across the second line. So it read the second line. So after reading the second line, it understood, okay, user wanted to, ABAPer wanted to pass a value 10 to the data object. So then it will pass value data to the data object. And then it will go to the third line and it will read sentence. So once it read the sentence, then it understood, okay, he wanted to display this data object value into the output. Then it will generate an output screen with the value, data object value to the output. So if you observe here, so interpreter able to perform its action once it read the statement. So without reading, is it possible to know by the interpreter you are going to uh, creating the data object, or you are going to assign the values, or you are going to display the output. Yeah, it's possible with the events. So with the events, what we are going to do, so we will say to the interpreter, okay, so let's say here load of program. So this is a event. So when interpreter come to this particular line, when it read the statement load of program, so it will prepare. Okay, now the ABAPer is going to next lines. ABAPer is going to create a data objects. So it know what you are going to do before reading this statement. So because of that, what will happen is understanding will become more. When the system understanding become more, so it will perform actions immediately. Performance will be improved. And here, a start of selection. Okay, so start of selection means user wanted to pass some value. So there is an operation he is going to do. End of selection. Okay, when the system read the statement, okay, it understood, okay, next lines of code abap written to display the data in output. So events are nothing but announcements to the system before it read the actual code. What is the use of these announcements is system make understanding comfortable, so it's ready to execute the next lines very effectively. So if you wanted to understand more, you can consider some example like your case. So let's say you got an opportunity for an interview in Bangalore. So basically, you are new to Bangalore. So what you do in the Bangalore first day, you'll catch a bus, and then you will talk to the conductor. Says, so this is my drop location. So where I have some interview. So I need a ticket. Then he'll give you the ticket to that location. And when you sit in the bus, so the entire Bangalore is new to you. You don't know the area. So it's a bus. Normally, it will have multiple stops, right? So when the bus stopped, your situation is okay. Is this my stop? You'll go and ask conductor. He'll say, no, no, this is not your stop. Then what you'll do? You'll sit. And again, some after 5 minutes, again bus will be stopped. Again, you will go to the conductor. Is this my stop? No. So like this, you are in a state you don't know whether you reached your destination or not. In this case, so someone you are always in a confused state, and you are always cross checking with your nearby person or conductor, asking keep on, is this my stop, is this my stop, because you are new to Bangalore and you wanted to go a place that is also you're not sure how long it is, how much time it will take initially. So in the same case with a different bus. So there is a bus which has announcements. So before any stop is coming and before bus is stopping, there is an announcement. The next stop is so and so location. So when you hear that one, what is your state in the bus? So you'll sit very comfortable because you know your destination. So until you heard about your destination, you will not move from your seat. So here your understanding is very more improved. And once you heard about, okay, this is the next stop and that stop is yours, then you will prepare and get down smoothly, right? So if you consider the two states in your pace, you will be compare with the system. So in the first case is like system is going to read your code without events, and in the second case system is going to read the code with events. So the second approach is very comfortable for the system because it knows what it is going to, what system is going to read. It is going to read the statements. So you are preparing the system. Okay, I'm going to write a code to display the data objects. So system will prepare for that, and it will create the data object. And also so when this is written in this way, understanding will become more. when understanding become more, performance will be improved. So always your program has to be written in a better performance. So you can write your code without events also and with event also. The difference between without events, with event, only the performance. So performance point of view, always it is recommended to write your code with the events. So as a ABAPer, if you are creating a report, if someone sees there is no events, then definitely they will ask you to write your code with the events. Even though that logic is working and getting the results, no one bothered, but they'll ask you to write the code with the events because system understanding will be improved and 1 or 2 seconds performance will be improved. Even 1 or 2 seconds also matter in the real-time projects. So now you understood what is about the events. And one more thing we have to remember here is once you use the event, and that event will be ended when system read by the another event. So what is this mean is, so once the system read this first statement, load of program, it will prepare, system will prepare like this. Okay, the next lines of code written by user to create data objects. So if you have not written any other events, then it will go to the second line also. It will think in that way. Okay, you are going to create the data object, not for the data assignment. So your logic may not work. So always remember when you start with your program with event, one event functionality will ends with another event. So if you are not writing the event, the other functionality will not work. This has to be keep in mind and work with the events. Same example. So you heard about an announcement saying you were supposed to drop in Bengaluru Martali location. Okay, you heard about a stop name called Silk Board. Then you will be sit inside the bus because the announcement says it's a Silk Board, but your destination is Martali. But really, is that happen? No, actually it is a Martali, but announcement says Silk Board. So the same situation, you are announced to the system, I'm going to create data object through a event, but you have not used another event. So system point of view, the next lines of code also for declarations only. So that's why events, when you start one event functionality will ends with another event. So events is important with respect to the event only, the other logic will work. So when you start with the event, you have to use proper events. So now what are different events we have in reports? So once after this events, we will go with this interactive report because in interactive report, we need events. So what are the normal events we have? So we have load of program and events have a sequence. You have to use with that sequence only. You cannot jump into another event and you cannot you cannot switch different events whenever you need. So you have to follow the sequence. Initialization, at selection screen, at selection screen, on field, at selection screen, on value, request, at selection screen, on help request, start off selection, top of page, end of selection, end of page. This is called selection screen events. So whatever the events we see, these are selection screen events. Events also is divided into uh, different blocks. So selection screen events and list screen events and output interactive list screen events. So we have three categories. So selection screen means so we are going to provide user a screen where you can enter data, right? So that is called selection screen. And list screen is nothing but the main screen. So for selection screen we have different events. For input screen we have different event and interactive list. For interactive list we have different events. So I'll show you this in PPT. So here if you can see, events are divided into three categories. One is selection screen events, which is nothing but input screen. We are generating input screen where user enter inputs, right? So that input screen related events, these are. And a list screen events is nothing but output screen. So once user enter input and then executed, output will be coming, right? So that screen related any functionality, anything you need to write to achieve, then we are going to use these events. And interactive list, once output is generated, so again user wanted to do some selection and we need to generate some other screens based on the user interaction, then in that screen related we will be using interactive list events. So these are all the different events we use. So if you see this selection screen events, which event is used for what purpose? Load of program is a default event which is generally used to load your program into application layer. And by using this system understood, okay, you are going to declare declarations, creating the data objects and all. And this load of program is a default event, which means automatically if you write or not, no matter, system will automatically consider the first event is always load of program. So basically we will not write this, automatically system will consider program when you are created. So that's where load of program, we will not explicitly, but you should remember this is also one event. And basically we start with program with initialization. So initialization is a event which is used to pass default values to selection screen. So I'll show you one by one event in program. So first try to understood what event used for what purpose. So initialization event, which is used to provide default values to your input screen. So we can provide default values whenever a end user executed report. So report has to come with the default values in the input screen. Then we will use this initialization event. At selection screen output. So once input screen was generated, okay, so user wanted to see one of the input screen is in disabled mode. He don't wanted to enter any value or anybody wanted to enter value. So one field he wanted to disable. Our business says one of the field has to be mandatory, a required field. Without providing the input, we will not proceed further. That means input screen field properties, if you wanted to change, then we can use this at selection screen output. At selection screen event, this event will be used. Let's say you have a input screen where it have customer id, sales organization, distribution channel, like different inputs are there. You wanted to validate multiple fields, group of fields in the input, like user has given sales organization but not provided distribution channel. Then you can validate and say, oh, the distribution channel is mandatory when you provided sales organization, like this. For multiple fields validation, we will use at selection screen. And at selection screen on field, which is specific to one field, if you wanted to validate input entered in this particular field level, then you can use at selection screen on field. So at selection screen on field, both are used for input validations to the input screen, and at selection screen on selection tab. So this is the event which is used for user. We are going to create a block in the screen, right? So that particular block level, some default values or changes if we wanted to use, then we will use at selection screen on selection tab or end of selection tab. And selection screen on block. So this is, we are going to create a block in a screen event. So block related changes, we can use this at selection screen on block. So radio button, so this is for radio button help request for F4 help. If you wanted to provide any field F4 help, you can use so help request for F1 help and value request for F4 help. So we will see these one by one in the program. So start of selection to intimate, okay, you are going to use a logic to get the data from the database. End of selection says you are going to display information, and top of page event used to provide header information, and end of page event used to provide footer information. Headline selection event used to deal with the interactive screens. Top of page during line selection used for the interactive outputs. At user command to handle user interactions on the screen. At PF status used to provide menus in the output. So we will see majority of the events, most important events in program. So let's get into the program and use these events. So let me log in into remote desktop. So execute SC38 and create a program. So program for events. Click on create. So this is the program to understand events in reports. So program type is executable. Click on save as local object. So now I'll create one input screen to display customer information. So input screen will be created with the help of select options. Select options S underscore Kunnar for LV Kunnar and data LV Kunnar type K neon icon Kunnar. So pretty print save. So we have created input screen, and then now let me activate this. So execute. So now we have input screen with the customer ID. So let me change this technical name. Go to text element selection text. So this is customer ID field. Save and activate. So come back, execute. So we have customer ID in the input screen. So basically when we create a report, what we will do, we will create a T code and give it to the end user. So let me create a T code also for this. So G customer events. So click on create. And provide short description, events, T code, and program and selection screen. You have to choose continue and enter your T code. Program. After that, save it. So now T code was created. So what you will do, you will give this T code to the business. So they will enter this T code and they will see the inputs, and once the input was generated, so they will enter the input values and they will execute to see the data, right? So here business saying that end user is saying that whenever he executed a T code, he wanted to see default values. He don't wanted to enter inputs in the screen. He need some default values has to come in the screen level. So how we can provide default values? So I'll be add one more field also, country parameters, and p underscore land one type kna1 kna1 hyphen land one. So land one is country. Pretty print, save, check, activate, and go to text elements, selection text, change this to country, save, activate. So keep this program and parallelly run this T code. So when you run this T code, so now you can see the customer ID and country. So business user saying that I want a country, a default value, India has to come. Whenever I run the T code, I have to see country as a default input. I don't want it to enter always country India in my output. So how we can display a default value into the input screen? So to display default value, you have to use events. So what is the event which we will use to display default value is initialization. So initialization is an event which is used to display default values into the selection screen. So copy this p underscore land one and then here enter in. So pretty print, save, check, activate. So now rerun your T code. So you can see default value which is coming as in. So default value how it was coming. So based on the uh, event which you have used, initialization event which is used for the purpose of providing the default value. Now I wanted to provide a default value for customer ID, low and high. So this is low and this is high. How we can pass default values to customer ID field? So we have to use initialization only for providing the default values. So here the field is s underscore Punar. So if you wanted to provide default values to the selection screen input s underscore Kunar, this s underscore Kunar basically has low and high value. So you need to fill that low and high value. So low is I'm giving 10 digits, one, customer number is one, because the customer number is 10 characters. And s underscore Kunar hyphen high equal to, I wanted to display 1,000. And this is my high value. So now I wanted to display this 1 and 1,000 into my input screen as a default values. But here p underscore land one is a data object. Directly you can pass the value. But here data object of type variable. So you can pass the value directly. But s underscore Kunar is a data object of type internal table. So this internal table has four values: sign, option, low, and high. So you have to fill all these parameters to display the default value. Sign sign is I integer and s underscore Kunar option. So option when you are giving two, it is between. You need range between the values. So sign option low high. After that you have to use append S underscore Kunal. So you are filling internal table here. So I'm using this append followed by internal table. So S underscore Kunal will be in the backend table and no header line append. We'll use append S underscore Kunal. Save, check, activate. Fine. So now we just filled S underscore Kunal with input values. Now let me execute the T code. So go to T code again, back and rerun the T code. So now you can see customer 1 and 1000 which is coming into my screen when we run the T code. So initialization event which is used for the purpose of providing the default values. So now one more requirement. What the customer is saying, okay, I wanted to validate or I wanted to make the screen for customer ID. So if you are giving like this, user can remove this information and he can enter, execute. So when he executed, whatever the customers are there for country India, it will display. But business saying that customer ID is a mandatory field. Okay, without entering the customer ID, you should not allow the user to proceed further. Then how we can make this field as a mandatory? So this field we can make it as a mandatory by using event called at selection screen output. So at selection screen output is a event. By using this event, we can make screen as a mandatory screen field properties. So screen field properties we can change. For that, you have to use a statement called loop at screen followed by end loop. So, and here you need to use screen here is a structure. Screen hyphen field name. Pretty print field name equal to s underscore Kunal hyphen low. Modify screen. Screen hyphen field name or name. Screen hyphen name. Let me save. Check. Okay. Activate. So screen hyphen name equal to this and screen hyphen mandatory, right? We'll see what is this mandatory. Double click. So screen hyphen name, which is representing the field in our input screen, and required, which makes field as mandatory. Required equal to X. Screen name and screen required. Modify screen. So pretty print, save, check, activate. So now we will run this T code again. Now remove this value 1. Changes are not reflected. So we have done something wrong. Loop at screen, screen name, screen required, and modify screen. XR1. Let me rerun. So it is 1, not X. So At selection screen output is used to change the screen field property. So what is screen field property is initially this screen field input one is not mandatory. I wanted to change this as a mandatory. I need a change in the screen parameter. So how we can change that is, so screen is a default when you executed input screen is generated, right? So this screen SAP terminology, it will be have a default structure that is called screen. So inside this screen, we have screen is default a one structure. So in this screen we have name and different parameters. So required input, output, intensified, invisible, length. So different parameters are there. Color, so value in combo. So by using this, you can make screen field as whatever you need. If you wanted to pass some radio buttons, you can use these groups in the screen. Required will provide a screen as a mandatory and input output. So by using this input output, you can allow the user enter the values or not to enter the values. Intensified to make screen field as glow. Invisible if you wanted to um, remove the field from the screen, that means it is exist but users cannot see the field in the screen level. And a length addition we can use, like right now it is a customer field is 10 characters, but you wanted to reduce the length and show visible length as only 2 characters, then you can use that length option. Like this input screen field properties we can change. And we will see one thing we have make as a mandatory. And we will also use this input disable. We will see this input how it will work for customer country. What we will do, we will make this field as input disabled. That means the users cannot enter any value here. It is input disabled. We will make this as input disabled. So for that again you have to use the same one inside the screen loop and end loop. So pass what is the screen field. So your screen field name is p underscore land one. So this is your field name. And input is the parameter. So input I wanted to disable. So pass 0. 0 means disabling and 1 means enabling. Uh, Save, check, activate. Now run the T code. Okay, so it was disabled entire screen. So let me check this. Mm, Screen name we were passing p underscore land one, but screen input equal to 0. So what we will do, we will only use this for this one loop at screen and loop screen hyphen name equal to land one. And I think we have to use clear modify screen and then clear screen. So pretty print, we'll see this one used in the same control X. After that again we will use it. So pretty print, save, check, activate. Now go back, read on your T code. So total fields are not visible. So not clear. activate. So we'll use this outside. Modify screen. So loop at screen, end loop. Screen name p underscore lan1, screen input disabled. Pretty print, save, check, activate. Now execute. Why total two fields are disabled? So pretty print, save. So screen input we are disabling. So, but this disable should happen only for this field. But it is taking entire screen which is disabling. This should not happen. So screen required, when you say screen required, only it was impacted on the field, this one, s underscore punar. But when you use input, which is getting impacted for the entire screen, why this is impacting on entire screen? So loop at screen. Okay, we'll do one thing. We will write a command. So if screen hyphen name equal to this, and if modify screen, and if screen hyphen name equal to this, and if, and inside this modify screen. So pretty print, save, check, activate. Now run your T code, go back, run your T code. Okay, now we can see country was disabled and customer ID, which is enabled state. So what is the mistake? What we have done is, so this looped screen, it will trigger for all the screen fields. So when it is triggered for all the screens, we have not used the condition. So when you are not using the condition, so this loop will trigger for all the inputs what we have given. Then it is making entire screen as disabled. So if you are writing up the condition, what is happening? This required is only affecting on this field, and this input is only affected on the p underscore lan1. For better understanding, what you do, you can place a debugger and later you can test it. How this particular functionality, which is making a particular field as required and another particular field as disabled. So you can place a debugger here and then run the T code. You can see how the logic is working. Now activate. And now I wanted to validate the inputs. So to validate the inputs, whatever customer entered. So, okay, how can you validate? Like users can enter any value, right? So when they enter any value, how can you validate the screen input and restrict the user? We will create one more field with select options, s underscore name, type lv underscore name. S underscore name for LV underscore name. So you need to create LV underscore name. Type KNA1 hyphen name1. So save, pretty print, check, activate. So let's change this selection text. Customer name. Save, activate. So now come back and execute. So we have one more field, that is customer name. Let's say user is not giving customer name, or he may given customer name saying that test. So once user provided information, you need to check whether this entered value is valid or not. So how we can check? By using a event called at selection screen on field. At selection screen on field followed by your field name, S underscore name. So on field. So S underscore name, selection screen on field name. So pretty print, save, check. There is no errors. So now if S underscore name is not initial, means if user entered value in S underscore name, then what you are going to do? So select customer name, select name one from KNA1 into table IT KNA1, where name one in S underscore name. So for that you have to create your internal table. So I'll create this as a runtime at data. So you can create internal tables at runtime. So for that you need to use escape operator. You don't need to declare it. So instead of that, you can use this escape operator and then data addition so that internal table will be created at runtime. So save, check. So now if psi-sabasi equal to 0 and if so this one we will use not equal to 0. When there is no record, you can pass a message saying that please check value for customer name, or you can say customer name is not valid. Type is, you can pass status message and you can display like error message. So pretty print, save, check and activate. So now execute and then pass some value and execute. So you can say customer name is not valid. So how this is coming? Because you have written a validation here in at selection screen on field. So if I enter this, execute. So at selection screen on field event is triggered, and S underscore name is nothing but your input screen field where you have entered test, and F6. So what you are doing, you are getting data from KNA1 table for the data what user entered in the screen. So if the data exists, then it is a valid. So now you can see the size of RC value. So why it is 0? Do we have data exists? IT name 1. So name 1, test we have. Okay, fine. F6, execute. Test SAP, execute. So F6, F6. So we don't have test SAP. So where we don't have a name called test SAP, in that case, you can trigger message. So at selection screen on field event, which is used to validate a value entered in the field level, which is valid or not before going to fetch a main selection. So right now today what we have seen, so we have started doing discussion on interactive report, but interactive report, before to that we should know about events, because without event we cannot capture the interactions. And we discussed what are all the different types of events we have, and we created a report program to understand the events, and we have used initialization at selection screen output and at selection screen on field events. So by using these events, how we can display and how these events works, we have seen. And tomorrow we will continue with the rest of events. Meantime, you can also try a program and start learning about the events, and start doing the some program with the events initialization at selection screen output and at selection screen on field.